So, this is also my voice. I used it before. I'm the same person. I'm really not role-playing here. Not in this voice, not in my female voice. I'm just not role-playing. Period. I'm speaking truths of my life and my perspective on things. I'm not going to keep using this voice just to validate that I'm the same person. I don't need to. But just so we're especially clear that I don't want or need anything I'm saying to be misrepresented somehow, now you know I clearly don't want any room for reasonable doubt to remain about my voice and how it relates to who I am.
Okay, so, because I'm clearly being lied about and disrespected extremely badly, I want to reiterate some things that should be understood. This isn't a voice changer. This isn't AI generated. I'm a real person. This is really my voice, and I come up with everything I'm saying myself. This same voice I'd be easily able to produce from my vocal cords and make come out of my mouth if you met me in person, and I'd be able to communicate my thoughts and feelings and articulate myself very well without anyone or anything else's help as well. I'm not role-playing or pretending or being sponsored or compensated at all for what I'm saying and doing here. And I'm the exact same person that was just talking in a male voice earlier. I force myself to use that voice with others often in public when presenting male, so I can avoid unnecessarily awkward situations or just generally making people confused or uncomfortable for no good reason. Otherwise, I prefer using this voice. This is my female voice. I've trained my voice since I was 18 years old to be able to sound female because I've always identified as a lesbian trans woman from a very young age. For a long time, this voice didn't come naturally, but now I kind of have to force myself to use the other voice. I find it worth mentioning that while I personally identify as female, I find that people's perception of how or when I might be dominant or submissive in any given situation tends to be rather off. So my gender identity shouldn't be taken as some indication of how I might fit into a more masculine or feminine type role in any relationship. I'd say my overall perspective and how I deal with people and life as a whole is extremely nuanced in a lot of ways, and trying to generalize me as dominant or submissive ever is probably often going to produce results you didn't want. Not because I'm trying to screw you over or be confusing or cause chaos. It's just who I am. People just seem to generally have a lot of difficulty understanding or relating to me in many cases. I'd say you're best off just asking me how I feel about something, listening to what I have to say, and taking what I say for what it is at face value. Not trying to read some weird, deep, alternative meaning behind it. I might say really wise-sounding stuff regularly, but it's still intended to be taken as it is on the surface. I mean, unless I'm explicitly telling you, look, there is a hidden meaning or something you should read between the lines here. But otherwise, don't. Just don't. Unless we have a personal relationship where we're both directly communicating privately often, for you to even possibly be able to actually get a solid vibe on that, if you're even considering doing something drastically in misalignment with what I'm explicitly directly saying with my words on the surface in public. This applies for anything I'd ever say in any voice or through any means of communication in general, by the way. What I say using this voice shouldn't be considered any less valid or any less attributed to me than my male voice. I don't want or need to mess around with trying to deceive and manipulate people. I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm not being fake. It's not some alternate personality or any kind of mental illness or drug-induced state or a different entire person or anything like that. It's me. It's me, and you should believe that it's me. I'm not sure how exactly certain people define yapping, but I'm not spewing drivel or messing around when I talk here. You should not ignore me. Everything I'm saying, I'm actually saying it with extremely serious purpose. One that doesn't drastically work in my detriment, unlike the purposes that it seems everyone that was ever significantly close to me somehow in my entire life is trying to force onto everything I do. And unlike the purposes everyone else would like me to have, so their egos are soothed, so they don't have to take a good, hard look at themselves in the mirror before casting judgment on me for how I have to live my life. So, it's probably not the purpose that most people want or expect, since it really seems to me like the only purpose people really want me to have in anything I do is to ultimately justify unaliving myself for being a genuinely wonderful, exceptional being that this extremely dark and screwed up modern society just brutally, viciously takes advantage of. Slandered and impersonated by so many people so extremely badly that nobody actually believes I'm actually a really good, smart, hardworking, genuine person. But the extremely unhinged, psychotic schizo narcissists not liking that I'm not the extremely pathetic, masochistic loser they want me to be is really not my problem anymore. I gave them enough chances to start acting like even remotely decent human beings towards me to avoid escalation of conflict. If you have any idea what I've been dealing with the past several years and you're annoyed at me or my efforts, it's probably because you look down on me extremely badly and you've been nothing but a massive piece of garbage to me. And your extremely serious, relentless, vicious, shameless attempt to suppress, ruin, sabotage, and destroy my life for your extremely selfish gain completely against my consent more than just annoy me. If you feel like I'm being harsh, well, what I've had to deal with has been harsh. So I'd say it's only appropriate. I'm not generally a mean or harsh person, but I'm not trying to come off like a pushover in any extremely serious situation like this. See, the thing is, you're there judging me, right? Well, your judgment is based on your own value system and your personal agenda in making the judgment. You're probably not even remotely qualified to be an actual judge in a formal courtroom, and even if you are, well, this isn't a formal courtroom. But see, I've actually had to deal with the criminal racket they call the criminal justice system before. So when I do everything I do now, I'm actually imagining myself having to defend myself as my own attorney in a formal courtroom. So I'm definitely going to be leading in early on here with a formal disclaimer that is to be considered legally binding and admissible as evidence in court, because things really have been that bad for a long time now. Anyone and anything at all communicating anything inconsistent or even just seriously questionable in contrast with what I'm explicitly saying about myself, my thoughts, feelings, and life circumstances and experiences, they are to be treated as a complete liar, point blank, period, with absolutely no exception. I don't ever use alternate email addresses, social media accounts, or other forms of communication that leave any serious room to question my identity or my intentions. I don't ever pretend to be anyone or anything else. I don't ever try to get anyone or anything else to communicate things for me, whether online or offline, publicly or privately, individually or to any group of entities. I'm not incapable or unwilling of communicating anything I want to communicate myself. I don't ever at all consent to other people or things having any access or control over the ways I communicate for any reason. My opinions are entirely my own. They always have been and always will be. Anyone or anything at all expressing anything contrary to these facts is operating entirely against my consent and is not me or a delegate for communication for me. Awesome. Now that we've established that, hi, I'm the most powerful world leader in existence, but you probably think I'm severely delusional and either have already unalived myself, should unalive myself promptly, or don't even really exist to begin with. You wouldn't be the first, and you're probably not going to be the last, so buckle up. If you're not ready for this, that's not my problem. I've done serious jail time over the situation that prompted me to start creating these. The courts went extremely hard on me for some threats over the internet, but trivialized, ignored, and neglected to even remotely adequately care about the insane circumstances that led to it. My book they called a manifesto was an aggravating factor and led to me serving a 13.5-month sentence for uttering threats. But the literally criminal slander and impersonation that led to those threats being made, threats which were ultimately only a handful of sentences in a several 100-page document, by the way, was covered up and basically encouraged to continue and even get worse. They made a complete mockery of my existence in court, literally acknowledging that everyone that had ever been somehow significantly close to me and society as a whole was screwing me over extremely badly. And yet all the criminal justice system had to say about that was they decided they'd massively punish me for standing up for myself, isolate me further from the world, toss me into a cage with a bunch of violent criminals and terrorize me for several months, and then basically laugh in my face and tell me they hope they terrorized and traumatized me enough that when they release me back out into the world in intentionally even worse circumstances than before, society successfully drives me to unalive myself, especially when combined with literally making it illegal for me to communicate with or even just keep up with the activities of people that I need to defend my reputation and life against. I've been professionally psychologically evaluated on court order. After 60 days of a thorough, not criminally responsible evaluation, which is the legal maximum for it in Canada, the final conclusion of the multiple licensed mental health professionals who told me this right to my face was that they do not feel confident I possess any mental illness and are actually honored to meet me. I've dealt with being robbed, guns and knives pulled on me, hitmen hired to end my life multiple times, and this is just the surface of the kind of brutal, relentless, perpetual, sheer, hellish nightmare every single day of my life has been for the past several years, literally non-stop. And it's not like I'm out here robbing people or dealing drugs or something for you to say I deserve that. I stay away from all that stuff, actually. Living on the streets is just dangerous in general, especially when you're a targeted individual. People treat me like a joke when I couldn't be further from it. So I'm actually going to just keep snapping and working even harder until things change. The way things are going, my power and truth will actually destroy the lives of the people that most caused my life to end up this way. Which, if I'm not going to get the kind of life partnership with Kimmy that I want and deserve in a timely manner, means first and foremost, especially Kimmy. She still isn't even communicating directly with me at all. I absolutely refuse to be getting such brutal mistreatment from her and act like everything's going to be okay. It really isn't. I don't care what excuses anyone has. I'm not looking for or willing to tolerate excuses here. If Kimmy pushes me to bring her whole life crashing down, she knows very well why she deserves it completely. Because I'm actually so done with just writing email after email and ultimately having my existence be made a complete mockery of and my life circumstances only worsening when I try to communicate towards a positive outcome. Even with dozens of highly influential people and hundreds of third-party bystanders witnessing everything, this is horrible. So, judge me all you want. But don't forget, if court's gonna be in session, I'll be checking you on what the hell makes you feel so qualified to think you're better than me.